What is up? What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to Grocknation, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. We have another fun video for you guys this evening. We're going to be doing a list of Grockstar's personal top 20 movies of all time. We will be looking at the movies overall with reviews, plot points, trivias. So be warned, there will be spoilers to these films if you haven't seen them already. Most of them are pretty old, so I mean, you should have seen them already. I'm not going to feel guilty about spoilers, I'm not going to lie. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe during these unsafe, uncertain times. I know that, the state of the world right now is not easy for everybody, so I genuinely hope you guys are doing well. Again, before we continue, if you guys liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, I highly recommend subscribing, as will my other subscribers, and turn the notifications on so you know when I put these videos out for you guys. So yeah, we're gonna get started here, guys. This should be really fun. Before I continue, I guess I should say, you go Grock, wow, is this your top 10 greatest movies of all time? What on earth would qualify? Well, for me personally, what I think everyone's personal greatest movies of all times are, they should be movies that if you're sitting around the house doing nothing and it's on TV, you watch it. It's an automatic, I'm gonna watch this. That's personally what I feel like. A movie maybe that's moved you or touched you in some way, maybe made you look at life in a different point of view. You know, there's all sorts of different criteria, but we'll discuss why these movies are on my list when we go through the videos. So with that being said, guys, let's get started. So coming in at number 20 is Steven Spielberg's 1998 World War II epic, Saving Private Ryan. This is actually Steven Spielberg's second forte into World War II. His first was on the front line, but it was about the Holocaust. 1993 is Schindler's List, another great film. Spoiler alert, not on my top 20 list. Definitely my top 50, top 100 for sure. Very important film to watch if you want to know the sad truth about the Holocaust. But getting back to Saving Private Ryan, man, this movie's opening scene inspired so many World War II video games and TV shows, and it never ever was really shown on television to its fullest extent, and how intense D-Day was. The D-Day landings in Normandy are depicted in the opening scenes of this movie, and it's just, I remember the first time I watched it, it actually gave me chills. It still does to this day. It's really standing the test of time. Another thing I like about Saving Private Ryan, nostalgically looking back on it, is there's no CGI. It's all practical effects, and it's all real effects. And a recent World War II film, Fury, starring Brad Pitt, actually tried to implement that as inspiration for the film. Used next to no CGI. They just wanted to go with practical effects to get that Saving Private Ryan look to it. But yeah, the film is really, really great. It's about this, I think it's three brothers that are in World War II. Two of them die, and the general gets a telegram that, this mother's lost two out of her three sons. It might even be 3 out of 4. I can't recall. It's been a while since I watched it. And so they decide to pull them out, and this last son, Ryan, was actually part of the 101st, so he actually jumped the night before D-Day. He was one of the paratroopers, and he's lost in Normandy somewhere, and a group of, like a little put-together group from Dog Company, or Charlie Company, rather, led by Tom Cruise, is tasked with locating this Private Ryan and getting him back home safely. The army's going to give him a pass because they don't want the poor mother to have to deal with all of her sons dying for this war. So it's a really great movie, good cast. You got a young Vin Diesel in there. Barry Pepper's the sniper, really good in that role. Like I said, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, not Tom Cruise, Tom Sizemore as well. There's a lot of Toms in here, so I'm getting confused here. Very, very great film, very, very bittersweet ending. I think everyone hates Upham, we can all agree on that. But yeah, definitely check it out, you guys. 1998's Saving Private Ryan. Steven Spielberg. Great war film, in my opinion, the greatest World War II film. If you guys enjoy this, I highly recommend watching the HBO miniseries that Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg helped produce as well, Band of Brothers. Really great historical TV show. They actually used the actual Easy Company 101st veterans stories to make this movie, or that TV show, and they actually do interviews with them at the beginning. It's very, very cool. Anyway, yeah, Saving Private Ryan, that's our number 20. So coming in at number 19, we have 2002 Martin Scorsese classic Gangs of New York. This is a great, great film. It's basically a movie about the turn of the century New York, when the city was basically run by big tribes or big gangs. Obviously, this is before, there was a real police force. These gangs would basically rule everything, and they made their own laws, and it just gets a really good perspective on that if people aren't aware of that in American history. There wasn't always a steady police force in these cities. They were more so martial law for the most part. It was, that time of age when it was just slowly coming out of the Wild West and into like modern times. There was that gap in there, and this movie really depicts that great. Daniel Day-Lewis absolutely stole this movie. This movie is more so supposed to be about Leonardo DiCaprio. I'd say 60-40 over Daniel Day-Lewis, but it got to the point where it was a lot like Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. He took over that movie. You really were like, when you're watching the Bale scenes when he's Batman, you're like, okay, what is Joker up to? I want to see what Heath Ledger's character is doing. This is what you're doing in Gangs New York. When they're touching on Leonardo DiCaprio's scenes, you're like, okay, well, what's Bill the Butcher doing? Oh, that's what I really want to see. And yeah, it's a great film, great performances by DiCaprio and Daniel Day-Lewis. It's one of Daniel Day-Lewis's best performances, in my opinion. Just the character of Bill the Butcher is just so goddamn badass, but he's bigoted too, though, right? But he's one of those characters where he's very honorable, and he's very passionate about what he believes in, and what he believes in Gangs New York, because he doesn't want any immigrants, which is ironic because he's not Native American, but I guess it's a situation where I was here first and you're not. So yeah, he's very, very bad to the immigrants, and they're very, very hateful towards them. But the fight scenes, there's big gang fight scenes in here. The storytelling, it's a great fucking story. The Leonardo DiCaprio story is a great story of vengeance. Great cast of actors are in here. John C. Reilly, Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, Cameron Diaz, Liam Neeson's even here a little bit at the beginning. Great film. It's got its own flair to it, the Martin Scorsese flair. It's very, very impressive. Definitely in my top 20. I knew I was going to put it in here. So yeah, guys, that's 2002's Gangs of New York. 1967's Cool Hand Luke, because sometimes nothing is a real cool hand. This is a great, great film, and it's a great character study as well if you want to look at and break down and dissect characters, what their intentions are, everything else. It's it's an acting thing. I, for one, used to do a lot of drama when I was a teenager, and we used to have to do character studies, and I really, really loved to break down characters and do character studies on people, characters in television and movies. Luke and Cool Hand Luke is one of those ones. It's a great character study. What makes him tick? Why is he the way he is? He just might be one of those free spirits that just doesn't give a shit. We don't know. But basically, the movie Cool Hand Luke is, there's a I think he's a World War II vet, that gets in trouble. This is in the 50s, I believe it's set in the 50s. He gets in trouble. He's cutting down parking meters, gets himself thrown in a chain gang, meets a group of people there, befriends George Kennedy. And he just kind of fucks around, he kind of gives the middle finger to authority kind of deal, and he's cool. He doesn't care about repercussions or anything like that. He was only sentenced to 2 years, but he keeps breaking out, and it's really a badass guy taking it to the man. guess, is what the whole purpose of this film is. And winning in the end, basically, because he gets his way and he dies, but he gets his way in the end. He makes a fool out of them, basically, is what I think he was trying to do. But there's a lot of layers to peel here. Like, he's got this weird relationship with his mother, and yeah, you kind of wonder to yourself, like, is it PTSD that kind of made him go crazy? Because even his army record, he was a sergeant, and by the time he came back, he was back to a private. So it's just, I don't know, it's almost like a look into his life. He's always been like this, even when he was in the army. This carefree, don't really care what happens to him kind of deal. And yeah, it's interesting. He's a very interesting character to look at. And that film itself, the cinematography for the time and everything else is great. The car wash scene, even to this day when I watch the car wash scene, I'm like, oh my god, she's amazing. But I'm like, is she even alive now? Because if she's alive now, she's got to be like 90 or 80. But regardless, it's a big piece of cinema history. She's immortalized, as everyone remembers her in the car wash scene. But yeah, that's Cool Hand Luke coming in at number 18. Speaking of character studies, we have yet another character study in Mickey Rourke's Randy the Ram Robinson from 2008, Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler. This is number 17, and yeah, it's such a like a sad look at the reality of what happens to a lot of these older wrestlers, or what's happened to them. We can see now, once their bodies break down, there's no insurance, there's no retirement plans for them. They're kind of just, they're struggling now. You hear about it all the time, and you see it with him. And Randy's such a strange character. You want to pity him, at the same time you want to slap him in the face. He's such a bad decision making. Basically, at the end of the day, it comes down to Mickey Rourke plays him awesome. Aronofsky's films, Black Swan and this one in particular, they have this cool, almost like documentary feel to them, almost like a mockumentary, where he just kind of follows them around, like these kind of like whatever mundane things, and you really feel it. Like you connect with them more on like a personal level. In my opinion, doing it in this fashion, it's like you're peering into their lives as opposed to actually watching a movie and seeing set scenes and whatnot. And that really is like, this was the first Aronofsky film I'd seen since Requiem for a Dream at the time, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm a professional wrestling fan as well. Back in the day anyway, I haven't followed it for years now, but yeah, man, it really struck a chord with me. It's a great performance by Mickey Rourke. He deserved that Oscar that year. Evan Rachel Wood played his daughter amazingly as well, and oh my god, I think she was 42 at the time, Marissa Tomei. Holy shit, she looked amazing in there. She plays a stripper, and you're like, there's no way Marissa Tomei's gonna like strip, and she does, and she looks phenomenal. Quintessential MILF, in my opinion, for sure. Marissa Tomei in that film. Yeah, great story. Like I said, if you follow professional wrestling, you will really enjoy this movie as well, because it's got very familiarities with these documentaries you see on wrestlers that are very similar. I get a lot of Jake the Snake vibes from this, that kind of a deal. These guys that are way past their prime, they're roiding, juicing up to try to stay up, and they're having to go to these cheesy little autograph signings, and it's 2008, but he's selling VHSs, you know what I mean? VHSs of himself, and they have their fanny packs where they collect their $5 for a picture. I actually seen that with 80s and 90s wrestlers, the Bushwhackers. They actually came to my town, and yeah, they were getting pictures midway through the show, like an intermission, and they had their fanny packs on, and one of them was limping badly. I just felt so bad. This kind of movie's for that kind of look into that life of that type of wrestler that's struggling now. But yeah, that's a great movie. Aronofsky's 2010 or 2008's The Wrestler, coming in at number 17. And we all know what was in that box. 1995's crime thriller Fincher's masterpiece 7 comes in next, and oh my god, what a great film. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey, who at the time I guess had molested 3 young men. We didn't know though, so still he put on a pretty good performance. Yeah, great movie. Oh my god. If you're ever going to watch a mystery serial killer like movie, that is probably the one that draws a lot of inspiration from a lot of movies that came after it, TV shows such as like True Detective, for example. That style of, crime thriller. It's amazing. David Fincher, he's always got this dark cinematography about him, and you really know when it's his movies. There's a spoiler alert, another David Fincher film in this list. Yeah, it follows young Detective Mills, who's brand new to the force, on Detective Somerset, Morgan Freeman's last week on the job, and they've encountered this serial killer that does the 7 deadly sins. He's trying to make a kill every day and base it off of the 7 deadly sins for that person. Like the first part's gluttony. It's a great big fat guy. He force feeds him till the guy's stomach bursts, and then there's greed, who's like a lawyer, a dirty lawyer, and so on and so forth. And yeah, this huge action for a long time. Like, my God, who's the killer? When are they gonna run into this killer? Great performance from Kevin Spacey as that killer. Yeah, great movie. Gwyneth Paltrow's in here as well. She was in the box. Yeah, great film. Definitely worthy to be my top 20 for sure. And like I said, 100% recommended for anybody that's never watched the film. Yeah, it's in my top 20. It probably is in yours too. So that's 1995. David Fincher's 7 coming in at number 16 now. I think that was 16. Coming in at number 16. Paul Thomas Anderson's 2008 masterpiece, There Will Be Blood. I think it's only one of 2 Daniel Day-Lewis films we're going to have in this list. Phenomenal movie. Again, another awesome character study. Daniel Plainview is who Daniel Day-Lewis plays, an oil man. It's set at the turn of the century, the 20th century. Just when, steam and all that's coming into play, and oil is a huge, market for fresh prospectors, and that's what Daniel plays, a fresh oil prospector. I always think, Daniel Day-Lewis's characters like an early Exxon, maybe the founder of Exxon would be like that kind of a deal. Like he's setting up an empire, basically is what happens. He ends up getting a tip that there's oil in this little town, and he takes his partner, who is the son of a co-worker he had that died when the kid was a baby, and he raised him as his own. And they eventually, get rights to this land to start drilling oil, and this town around it basically becomes like an oil town. And it basically just follows all the trials and tribulations, and it's a massive character study on Daniel Day-Lewis. He really takes over this film like he does in most films he stars in. Yeah, he's just a very, very dislikable character. There's so many bad things about him, but Daniel Day-Lewis plays him so good you can't take your eyes off of him. Yeah, just a great film. Highly recommended if you like, just seeing amazing performances from actors or actresses. This would be definitely in the top 10. If you gotta pick just a performance for an actor or an actress, you gotta pick who would be up in the top 10, which so-and-so played this, so-and-so played this. He would be on the top 10 for me. Yeah, very, very unlikable character, and a great film, great cinematography. It's got a very eerie feeling to it. It's always got a feeling of dread, the tension it sets up, but yeah, it's got a really good ending. I don't want to really ruin it, I guess, no spoilers in this one, but it's a very, I don't know, for me it was a very satisfying ending though. yeah, that's There Will Be Blood. Coming in at number 15, a definite check out for people that, want to see good performances from actors or actresses. I would definitely say check this out. Coming in at lucky number 13 is 2000's Guy Ritchie film Snatch. Awesome gangster film. Guy Ritchie is like the Martin Scorsese of British gangster films, and this is easily his best. The Gentleman comes in close. I would say The Gentleman's in my top 40 for sure for movies. Phenomenal British cast. Some North American actors you guys might know is Jason Straham's in here, as well as Brad Pitt, who plays one of the central characters in here. It's basically a British mob film about this mobster that gets involved with underground boxing, and they lose their boxer to a traveler boxer that is Brad Pitt, and they have to entice Brad Pitt to take his place for these prize fights and to throw a big fight. Great film. I don't want to ruin it for you guys. Again, no spoilers for this one. Brad Pitt's performance in it is amazing. Some of the scenes in here are just iconic, and they're talked about. They're water cooler movies. You could sit and talk about Snatch for an hour, all the funny parts, all the little action sequences, all the little side stories. It's great if you're a big fan of mobster movies, but you've never really wanted to dabble in British mobster movies. Just try Guy Ritchie. Trust me, you won't regret it. His films are great, and this is by far his best film. You guys will have a laugh, and on top of it, it's a really, really great action-packed movie as well. So, that's Snatch by Guy Ritchie from the year 2000, coming in at number 13. Tatanka. That is Kevin Costner's Dances with Wolves. I believe that's Kevin Costner's directorial debut as well. It won a ton of Oscars the year it came out. I think that was 1990. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but 1990. Beautiful cinematography, a beautiful story. Those of you that have never watched it, that's, a bit of the younger crowd. If you've watched Avatar basically is based off of that movie, exact same concept. Instead of a U.S. Marine going to an alien planet, it was a U.S. soldier going to the Wild West and the frontier where the Native Americans were still living, and he becomes one of them. He befriends them, and they welcome him in, and he sees them for what they are, these peaceful beings, and he joins them. Great film, like I said, great cinematography. I used to like watching this film when I was younger with my uncle, because my uncle actually is a Sioux Native American, and he can actually speak Sioux, so whenever they would talk, there was no subtitles in original VHS. For certain things the natives would say, he knew what they were saying. It was so funny. Also, fun fact, the little boy in there that breaks his arm is actually from my uncle's reserve, and we always heard about all this money he was going to get when he turned 18. He got, his payment from the film, but he didn't get access to it until he was 18, so I remember everyone was always talking about all this money he was going to spend and everything. I don't know, he's quite a bit older than I am, but that's what my family would always talk about, because my uncle knew this guy. But that's Dances with Wolves, a great film. Like I said, epic, great cinematography, great acting. Kevin Costner's amazing in it. Give it a shot if you haven't seen it. I think you guys will really enjoy it. It's got really, really heartfelt scenes in there with a wolf as well, who he gets named after. The film is named after Kevin Costner's character. The Native Americans give him a Native American name, and they give him the Native American name Dances with Wolves because when they're spying on him one of the first few nights, he's playing with a wolf that he befriended at his camp. But anyway guys, that's A Dance with Wolves. So this is the only Clint Eastwood film on this list, which I was pretty shocked because I love his films. This is 1992's Unforgiven. Probably I'd say it's my favorite Clint Eastwood film of all time. I was going to say, if I could say the other one, which is Million Dollar Baby, you're going to say, why is it on this list, Grock? I love Unforgiven. It's one of my favorite cowboy movies of all time. And I vividly remember being a little boy and going and renting a video game, and my dad being so excited that Unforgiven was out. It was a new release on VHS, and seeing the wall of Unforgivens, the movies. I always remember that. I don't know why. But yeah, guys, Unforgiven is about an old outlaw, retired hitman outlaw, who gets dragged in to do another job when he's an old man now, from a young kid who wants to collect this bounty. He decides he's going to take it because things aren't going well for him. He's got 2 kids now. Their mother's dead, and they're starving, and they can't make any money. Their pigs are all dying. They're sick or something, so he's got to make some money. He recruits his old partner in crime, Morgan Freeman, and they go off on this hunt with this kid. And yeah, it's got a really, really good climax. One of the most famous scenes, I think, in all of Western movies happens in the last scene of Unforgiven, and you really see the last 20 minutes of the film just how badass this Clint Eastwood character was, and how badass he would have been in his younger days, because he's coming off so badass when he lets himself go at the end. It's very impressive to see, and again, great cinematography for the 90s, and won Oscars as well. Yeah, great Western. My favorite Western of all time, I would probably say, is Unforgiven. But yeah, so there we go, guys. Unforgiven, check it out if you haven't seen it. So coming in our top 10 is 1994's coming-of-age epic starring Tom Hanks in his epic portrayal of the character Forrest Gump in Forrest Gump. I think this is going to be in everyone's top 10. It's such a great story, and like I said, it's a coming-of-age. You start out with young Forrest, and you make your way all the way up, and older Forrest, I want to say it ends when he's in his 40s. And all of his life story, all the little milestones and events in between, it borderlines unreal, unbelievable. There used to be a guy we worked with that told tall tales, his life would have been like Forrest Gump's, and we always laugh and say, imagine at his funeral when all these people show up and you hear all these stories about him, and imagine if it was true. It's kind of like what happens with Forrest Gump. He meets the presidents, he's a part of historical events he's not even aware of. He's kind of simple, right? They don't really touch on what kind of mental condition he has, but he's kind of simple for sure at the very least. He grows up and being in love with his best friend from childhood, Jenny, who I think only gets with him when she's finally dying at the end. Dying of AIDS. I hope he never fucked her when she had the AIDS. It's kind of one of the things. And then, did she have a kid with him? That's the thing. You say, okay, that she tells him years later, the little boy from The Sixth Sense is her kid, and it's our kid Forrest, because they fucked one time. She dies of AIDS in the end, so I'm like, is that an AIDS baby? Did Forrest Gump have AIDS? I don't know, but there's so many questions when it comes to this one. So many iconic moments in cinema history come from this movie. Life is like a box of chocolates, or was like a box of chocolates. None of the Mandela effect ruined it. But yeah, Forrest Gump, great film. I think if you haven't seen it already, it's not quite possible unless you're really, really young and you haven't given it a chance yet. But I'm pretty sure everyone's seen it, and I don't know anyone that's ever disliked it that I've talked to. But yeah, that's gonna break our top 10 1994's Forrest Gump. So here we are, number 9, another great 1994 film. 1994 film that is, again, iconic. It's crazy that these two movies they came out in 94, Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction was Tarantino's second feature film, I believe, following Reservoir Dogs, another great film I debated putting in my top 20. It really started a genre of multiple storylines and timelines happening at different parts of the movie. In one, you start here with this storyline, you go to another story and another storyline, back to another storyline, and then then it turns out that the storyline you see at the beginning was actually the end of this storyline, and it all adds up together in the end. It makes sense in the end. But yeah, Tarantino's really the first one that really did that, and yeah, it makes for a really, really fun film. I know there's compilations people made where they did the whole movie in order, Like, I don't think I wouldn't watch it. If you guys ever watch any of my, well, some of my ASMR videos as well, but more so on my Twitch stream, I'll always say, one of my lines I always say, even my friends, I'll Tarantino it, meaning I'll start. You'd be like, Grock, what happened this weekend? I'm like, well, I got laid. But you know what, let me Tarantino it, let me rewind it, tell you how that happened. That's kind of like where that happened. This movie's where that, that line came from, some people say. I like to say it a lot. But yeah, it really changed cinema, and a great cast of actors and actresses in here. Uma Thurman's iconic role in here with the John Travolta, their dancing scene. You got Ving Rhames, who you've seen in the clip. He actually, in that clip, he was chasing down Bruce Willis to kill him. Bruce Willis is a boxer that was supposed to throw a fight for Ving Rhames, this big gangster, and he didn't. And they fought into a pawn shop, and the pawn shop guy drew a gun on them. Talk about the wrong place, the wrong time. They ended up getting kidnapped from this pawn shop guy and his cop friend, who is the master, and they have some S&M thing going on. They capture them and they put them downstairs with a gimp that lives in a box. Where the fuck does this gimp go? Home at the end of the night, or does he just live in there? And if he does live in there, why is he so willing to help, rape Bruce Willis and Ving Rhames? And basically, in the end, Bruce Willis escapes and helps Ving Rhames get revenge, and that's what you've seen in that clip. There's so many little scenes and stories in Pulp Fiction that, generate conversations. Again, another movie you could spend hours talking about. But yeah, okay, that's Pulp Fiction, 1994, Quentin Tarantino classic. Definitely check that out. So here we are at number 8, with 1995's Michael Mann's Heat. A fucking awesome cop and robber movie. I want to call this. It has one of the most iconic shootout scenes in cinema history that inspired so many video games. A lot of video games copy it a lot. It inspired a lot of movie shootouts that came afterwards. Michael Mann is a master of nighttime urban cinematography, and his sound effects, man. I remember when I seen one of the movies you'll see coming up in theaters that I'd never heard gunshots sound like that in movie theaters. Yeah, great cast, epic cast. This was the first time that Al Pacino and Robert De Niro were on screen at the same time. They were in The Godfather 2 in the same film, but they never filmed together. This was the first time they did, so that was the big hype around this movie at the time. This movie also had Tom Sizemore, Val Kilmer, Ashley Judd was in here. It was a great movie. Like I said, cop and robber movie, maybe even a gangster movie if you want to put it in there. Yeah, just so much action and so fucking cool. I don't know what else to say about this movie. I could watch this movie 1,000 times. It'll never get old. It's one of those movies I want to say I watch every other year, if not at least once a year. Especially if I see it, I'll be scrolling through Netflix or Amazon Prime. I'll see Heat, I got nothing else, so I'll just throw this on, even listen to it in the background. It's a great fucking movie. Definitely watch that, guys. 1995's Heat by Michael Mann. Coming in at number 7, we got our second Scorsese film of the list in 2006's The Departed. This movie I'll always remember is the big movie that was out the summer I graduated in 2006, and yeah, it's one of the best movies ever made in my opinion, easily. I could have put it in the top 5 and been satisfied. I just didn't want to have 2 Scorsese films in the top 5. Where do I start? The cast, man, you have Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sofia Vergara, she plays the therapist. It's got that awesome Scorsese touch to it, that flair, that, I don't want to say cinematography, but the way the cuts are, and the camera angles and everything, man. And the story, it's just an awesome mob story. It's really loosely based on a Boston mob and Whitey Bulger. Even right down to one of his own men being one of his own men on the inside, finding out that he's actually an informant as well. Yeah, a lot of twists, and I don't want to really ruin it all. That final scene always gets everyone all fucked up. I remember, and theaters, actually, the final scene of Mark Wahlberg. He's also in this film. I forgot. And Alan Baldwin. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of good actors and actresses in here. My God, I forgot. That last scene with Mark Wahlberg, everyone in the theater cheered. I know I cheered as well. And I honestly think this is where that villainous approach Jimmy Kimmel has towards Matt Damon stems from, this rotten character he played in this movie. This very dislikable character. Yeah, great movie. Great movie. Everyone looks amazing, and the acting's amazing, and the action's awesome, and you're always on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next, and you're really invested in these characters, and for me that's a huge deal when people think of their favorite movies of all time. Like, you care about these characters, and yeah, it's a great film. But yeah, guys, that's 2006's The Departed by Martin Scorsese. So here we are with the second Michael Mann film already. We had Heat in here, 2 picks back, but here we are at number 6, and we have 2004's Collateral. This movie is it's such a cool action movie for me. Again, another one of those potential character studies, because you don't know anything about Tom Cruise's character, Vincent. You don't know about his alias. There's theories about what his training would have been like, what his background was, where he came from. Yeah, just a great dynamic between him and Jamie Foxx in this film as well. I was talking about Michael Mann's sounds and night urban cinematography. At night, it looks fucking awesome. You guys can see this in Heat, in Collateral, and in Miami Vice. You can see it in all 3 of those. In my opinion, he's the master of nighttime city visuals. But his sound is what, for me, always caught me off guard. I watched Collateral in theaters, and the scene when he pulls his gun out and shoots the 2 thieves. Oh, that sound, man, the way it echoed in that theater, it sounded so fucking real and so good. And it really made me fall in love with Michael Mann. And on top of that, he always has a phenomenal soundtrack. I never mentioned that during the Heat breakdown, but yeah, his soundtracks are always so fucking good. The scene when, Shadow of the Sun plays and they see the coyote across the road, the symbolism there, we're driving to that club, the music at the club, Paul Oakenfold playing at the club. Yeah, it's a great fucking movie. Mark Ruffalo's in here as well. He plays a really good role. Yeah, just barely didn't make the top 5, but that's 2004's Collateral by Michael Mann. Definitely check that out. Here we are again, 1994. What a time to be alive. I'm not old enough, and I'm talking to the people that are also not old enough. Can you imagine being an 18-year-old, 19-year-old moviegoer in the year 1994? We are in our top 5 now, and kicking off the top 5 is 1994's Shawshank Redemption. Oh my goodness, what a year that was for movies. What can I say? This is the ultimate background movie for me. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie, hundreds of times. These Stephen King movies are so amazing. I almost put Green Mile in here as well, but there's just so many of these movies in the top 20. I'm like, they're better than the Green Mile. I think I can't justify it. I'm gonna put Shawshank in top 5 for sure. I was thinking so. No, Shawshank will outdo it. Well, Shawshank will make up for the Green Mile not being in the top 20. Yeah, epic movie. Tim Robbins is a wrongfully accused person that gets sent to a prison, an old school prison at, I think it's right at the end of World War II. World War II had just ended. And, yeah, him and his little buddies, Morgan Freeman and whatnot, they uncover some corruption in that prison, and they realize how shitty it is, and Tim Robbins makes a ploy or a plan to get out by breaking out. He eventually crawls through the sewage pipes and he gets out, and Morgan Freeman, when he gets his parole, he breaks his parole guidelines and he travels out of the country to go meet up with him in Mexico. It's a really nice story. But man, it's just the stories and just the filmmaking in general for the whole movie. You got the classic Morgan Freeman narrating, which also is iconic in this film. If not, what really kicked off his narrating career, in my opinion. Yeah, great film, great action, great suspense, great mysteries that they unlock, and great performances by all the actors. Easily one of the greatest movies of all time, for sure. But yeah, that's coming in number 5, another 1994 classic, Shawshank Redemption. Coming in at number 4, we have Cameron Crowe's 2001 Vanilla Sky. This movie really resonated with me as a coming of age. By coming of age, I mean a teenager going to a man, you know. I've seen a lot of similarities in myself and Tom Cruise's David in terms of my relationships with women and how I treated women, unfortunately, in my late teens, early adult years, I guess you could say. But the movie in general is just, it's amazing. It's one of those films where you have to watch it 2 or 3 times and you'll catch little things that you missed, because there's so many little Easter eggs and stuff in this film, and there's so much where you're going, what is real and what isn't real. The film basically follows a millionaire, like, I guess it's supposed to be like Maxim magazine. He's a millionaire that owns a magazine that he inherited from his father, and he's running it, but he's trying to get pushed out by these board of guys that I guess his dad gave them 49%. They gave him 51 to make him, majority owner by himself. They're trying to plot to overthrow him. He's fucking around with, I think it's the mayor's daughter, Cameron Diaz. They're not dating, but he's just kind of fooling around with her, and he breaks her heart, you know what I mean? Like, she's kind of got some problems. That's where I said there's a lot of similarities I had with him when I was younger, but, he meets Penelope Cruz at a party. A party's throwing at his house. And, he does, again, another thing I resonate with. He did a thing with, he spent all night with her. They didn't fool around or fuck or anything. He just got a single kiss out of the deal. And, what guy hasn't done that, right? You're just trying to get to know somebody that doesn't want to fuck. They want to get to know you. And you're like, oh, God, I guess I got to get to know this person. So you spend all night, just killing time, getting to know each other, and, pleasure delaying as well. It's another thing from this film that I used to do a lot. And so you figure, okay, now he's actually fallen in love with this character, and he leaves her apartment, and Cameron Diaz followed him there, and she was parked outside the apartment the whole night, and she pulls up next to him knowing he didn't get laid, and she entices him, maybe we get in, we go to my place, and let's fuck, basically. And it's one of those things, and there's a moment where he stands at the car door, and everyone can relate to this, where a single moment can change everything in your life. Maybe if you didn't go to the mall that day, and you went to that particular store you went to, you wouldn't have met your girlfriend or your boyfriend that you would end up marrying years later. You almost didn't go, right? It's a little choice. And he decides to get in the car, and she fucking runs him off a bridge, and she dies, and he gets disfigured, basically. And it turns out that, he did an assisted suicide, and at some point during his disfigurement, after life, whatever thing, he went to a cryo sleep, and it was all a fantasy afterwards, where he got Penelope Cruz, his face got fixed that couldn't get fixed before, and all this crap. And it's a very, very great film, and we're gonna get a little off topic here, but it's a funny story I want to share with you guys. I used to work with this really strange little man. He came and worked in our building for, I want to say, a year, and he just gave everyone the creeps. He was like a 5'5" dude, and he was just as wide as he was tall, and he had these creepy, like, shark eyes. They were just very beady. He looked like a little miniature version of Jack Black. We used to call him a bald, a little miniature version of Jack Black. He had these tiny little doll hands, and he had a great big scar in his eye, like they used to call him Chucky. And I remember he really wanted to be friends with me so badly. He would offer me to give me rides home, when I'd carpool with my friend, and just all this other creepy stuff. He'd bring the same lunches I would bring. And, I used to say as a joke, I was like, bro, if I ever get in this guy's truck, I guarantee you I'm going off the fucking Burnwood Bridge. He's gonna Vanilla Sky my ass off the bridge. But yeah, okay, we're getting off topic. That is Cameron Crowe's 1994 Vanilla Sky, coming in at number 4. One of my most favorite movies of all time. Definitely check that out, you guys. Alright, this is the last Martin Scorsese film on this list. Like I said, he's my most favorite filmmaker of all time. Easily the best mob movies you'll ever watch. And even his non-mob movies, but his mob movies, in my opinion, are gold, and they'll stand the test of time. This is by far one of the greatest mob movies of all time. Goodfellas. This movie, is the movie I want to say that really launched these great, massive mafia blockbuster movies you've seen in the 90s and early 2000s. actors in there again. Another Scorsese, awesome cast. De Niro, which Scorsese uses a lot in his career. He used him in Taxi Driver, he used him in here. I used him in Casino as well, later on. Casino definitely be my top 50 for sure, but Goodfellas trumps it, obviously. Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci plays a little badass again, like only in the 90s Joe Pesci would be this dangerous badass. Yeah, a lot of these characters in this movie, these Italian actors, they're used in a lot of other mob movies and mob TV shows, a lot of these characters. And Goodfellas, you'll see them in The Sopranos, for example. They're in Casino as well. Yeah, awesome story. It's a true story about mafia member turned informant Henry Hill. It's loosely based off of his book Wise Guys, but it's a really awesome look into what many consider the golden age of the mafia, the 70s and 80s. And yeah, if you love the movie, I recommend reading the book as well. There's a little bit of difference, but it's really good to hear like the little behind the scenes kind of deal, like things you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. But yeah, guys, that's Goodfellas, amazing film that's definitely worthy of most people's top 10s, I would think, and one of the best mob movies of all time. Definitely give it a watch. A lot of action, a lot of laughs, amazing Scorsese filmmaking, cinematography, everything. It's 5 out of 5 stars for almost everybody. But yeah, guys, that's Goodfellas. Definitely check that one out. That's number 3. 1999's David Fincher classic Fight Club. I bet you guys didn't see that coming as my number 2. Man, this movie's great. Again, another movie a lot like Vanilla Sky, where you have to rewatch it a couple times to really figure out what's going on and figure out what's real, maybe what's not real. This movie is what Mr. Robot carbon copied, basically. If you guys have watched the television show Mr. Robot, it's Fight Club. There's even little Easter eggs in there that prove that it's directly taken from Fight Club. Great film, great performances by Edward Norton, Brad Pitt. I love Brad Pitt's style and flair in here. The Tyler Durden side, the Brad Pitt side of Tyler Durden, which is Brad Pitt. What am I saying? The non-Edward Norton side. I loved it. When I was in high school in grade 12, I used to love buying expensive dress shirts, and I had a really nice dark black or dark blue, I can't remember, leather jacket, and it had orange stripes on the side. I used to love flaring out those dress shirts when I would wear them. Look like Tyler. And yeah, they were very fashionable. I loved them. I loved that movie. Just an overall coolness to it. It's got that David Fincher, like that darkness to it. His films, like I said, Seven, In the Cut. These are films you know when you're watching a David Fincher film. Gone Girl. That's another David Fincher film. Yeah, it's just a great film, great performances, really good story. Like I said, I really like those movies where you're not really sure what's going on. You gotta go watch it back, and it's a really good look at anarchy in society, and what would happen if it takes over. The ending of Fight Club is essentially what happens at the ending of the first season of Mr. Robot. Only in Fight Club you don't get to see the fallout. Mr. Robot you do. But the twist that Edward Norton is Tyler Durden obviously is it changes the whole movie. You have to rewatch back, and you start to realize things you've missed, and you start to think about the scenes where it's him and Tyler, and it's just the two of them and the things they're doing, and you're like, that's just him with himself. Like it's a great movie. I definitely recommend it. It's my number 2 for a reason. I watch it at least once a year for sure. Usually if it's on Stacker or Netflix, I'll definitely turn it on if I got nothing else to do. But yeah, guys, that's number 2, 1999's Fight Club. Definitely check that out if you're a Brad Pitt, Edward Norton fan. It's a must-watch. Yeah, okay. Let's get into our number 1. Alright, so you guys are wondering, if you know me, you're like, Grockstar, where is the Lord of the Rings movies? Where is the Star Trek movies, the Star Wars movies? Aren't these in your... I decided when I did this list I didn't want to do any trilogy movies or any whatever, because it's hard, man, to choose, one movie over the other, and this was another one of those, and I'm like, 1 and 2, or 1 is my favorite movie of all time. It's, for many reasons, it's nostalgic. I used to love, my dad would watch it when I was a little kid, and I'd fall asleep on a couch listening to it. I know when I was going through dark times in my life, one of my most depressing moments, when I first moved out on my own, that was like comfort for me. AMC would have marathons of all three Godfathers, and I would just lay on a couch and listen to it, and I'd fall asleep, take naps on a couch listening to it. It was very comforting, and aside from that, it's the Godfather 1, Godfather 2, maybe even, I wouldn't say 3, but 1 and 2 are the greatest movies ever made, for sure, if not, yeah, they're the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. The story, the characters, the performances, Brando's performance in Godfather 1 is one of the greatest performances of all time. It's what everyone thinks about when you think about the Mafia, and when you think about Brando in The Godfather, you think of that iconic character of Vito Corleone. Michael Corleone's played by Al Pacino, and his performance as Michael in 1 and 2. It's really hard to choose between 1 and 2, and I was like, I'm going to pick 1 because Brando's iconic in 1, and even 2 is probably my favorite, I would say, story-wise, but it's a long movie as well, and a lot more iconic things happen in 2, I would say, but, 1, I'm going to put 1 as my number 1 instead of 2. It was going to be one of the 2 to be my number 1, again, because of Brando. He's absolutely fucking amazing in here, and, if you guys have never watched The Godfather, and you're saying, Grock, it's too old, you know what I mean, I don't want to watch some old-ass movie, don't. It's aged appropriately. It's set not long after it was filmed. Like, it's set in the 40s, and it was done in the 70s, you know what I mean? Like, it was close enough. It's not like it was a movie that was filmed for the 70s, in the 70s, in a 70s set, even so, like Taxi Driver, you're going, Grock, you watch a lot of movies. You must be really versed in films. I didn't watch Taxi Driver until recently because I was under the same stigma of that. It's an old movie from the 70s. I don't want to watch that. And I thought about it for a while. I'm like, well, I love the Godfather films, and they were from the 70s. So I gave it a chance, and yeah, Taxi Driver. If I had watched Taxi Driver years later and watched it up till now, it would probably be in this list. Again, Scorsese, right? I love Scorsese, but yeah, give this a try if you haven't seen it. Start 203, 1, 2, and 3. There's not even a need to do anything in order, and yeah, you'll love it. I will say right now in my personal life, I really, with Sonny and Michael, when it comes to their sister, the things I go with my sister, oh my god. My sister's literally had me Sonny in part 1, and Michael in part 2, so I can really relate with him when it comes to that. But yeah, guys, that's my number 1 film on this list, and that is 1972's The Godfather by Francis Ford Coppola. Definitely check that out. Alright, so that's my films, guys. That's my top 20. That's my top 20. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your top 20 is. Let me know if you think I missed some, maybe, or what my opinions are on some, and what maybe your top 20 list is, or your top 10, top 5, whatever it may be. Let me know down below. I would love to hear it. I hope you guys enjoyed the little video clips I made with the dubbing over. It was a pain in the ass to do. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe good for some laughs. But yeah, that's going to be it for tonight. Everyone have a good night. Have a good sleep. Good day if you're listening to this background noise. And peace out.